The Abraham Series. Story number 5. God's Covenant with Abram. Taken from Genesis chapter 15, verses 7 through 18. This narrative is the rest of the conversation Abram and the Lord began in the previous account. The discussion, however, shifts from the Lord's assurance that Abram will have a son of his own to renewing the promise that Abram will inherit the land of Canaan. When Abram asks for proof, the Lord enters into a blood covenant with Abram. A blood covenant was the most binding agreement that people in that society could enter into. During the covenant ceremony, the specifics of the agreement were first clearly stated. Then the covenant parties would walk together between the two halves of the slaughtered divided animals. By walking between the animal halves, the parties agreed that if they broke the covenant, the other person had the right to do the same thing to the other person's livestock. It is interesting to note who declared this covenant agreement, and who walks between the bloody halves. And that is where this incredible account begins. And the Lord said to Abram, I am the Lord. I called you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give this land to you as your sole possession. But Abram said, O sovereign Lord, how can I be certain that I alone will inherit this land? And the Lord said to Abram, Bring me a 3-year-old heifer, a 3-year-old female goat, a 3-year-old ram, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. So Abram brought them and set them before the Lord. Then Abram cut them in half, and placed one half of each animal opposite the other half. But he didn't divide the birds. And when the vultures tried to come down on the carcasses, Abram chased them away. Then as the sun was going down, the Lord put Abram into a deep sleep. A deep and dreadful darkness came over him. Then the Lord said to Abram, Know this for certain. Your descendants will live as foreigners in a land that is not theirs, and they will be enslaved and mistreated for 400 years. But I will judge the nation that enslaves them, and afterward they will leave. They will come out with great possessions. But as for you, you will rest with your fathers in peace, and be buried in a good old age. Then in the 4th generation your descendants shall return, because the iniquity of the Amorites isn't completely full. After the sun had gone down and it was dark, a smoking firepot and a flaming torch passed between the animal halves. On that day the Lord made a blood covenant with Abram, saying, I have given this land to your descendants, from the Wadi of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Rephaim, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. The Abraham Series. Story number 5. God's Covenant with Abram. Taken from Genesis chapter 15, verses 7 through 18.